Shabbat Shalom. In Bereshit 32, verse 4, we read, "And he sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, in the countryside of Edom." Vayishlach is Hebrew for "and he sent." The vav at the beginning is usually an indication that this is the word "and." It begins many Hebrew words. This parasha at first glance seems to be about Yaakov's preparations and his eventual reunion with his estranged brother Esau. But as we read further, we discover that the central narrative of this parasha concerns Yaakov's second meeting with Hashem. It seems that most people, if you ask them, would say that they would like their lives to be blessed by God. Some people, even if they don't really have a strong belief in God, would say that. But what does one have to do to receive these blessings? In order to experience the blessings of Hashem, we must be people of the covenant who keep God's commandments. Whatever blessing or guidance you might desire at this moment, entering into the covenant with God must always come first. This is what we come to understand through the life of our father Yaakov, whose name means supplanter, or one who takes the place of another, but whose name God changed to Yisrael, one who prevails or has the power of a prince. At Bethel, Yaakov had been truly alone for the first time in his life. Fleeing from the wrath of his brother Esau, he slept in a place other than the usual family encampment, without servants to guard him, and without the protection of the home environment. The geography of his life had changed, and he was on the move, in a strange place and alone. But it was not only his situation and location that had changed. His internal values had also changed. Yaakov awoke from his sleep and said, "Truly Adonai is in this place and I didn't know it." And then he became afraid and said, "This place is fearsome. This has to be the house of God. This is the gate of heaven." And then, completely at peace, he went back to sleep. Awaking after a restful night, restful because he knew God was in that place, and he had nothing to fear because his safety was guaranteed. He took the stone he had used as a pillow, common practice, and he set it up as a standing stone. He poured olive oil over it as an offering to God, and he named the place Bethel, the house of El. And here Yaakov made this vow: "If God, the God of my father and my grandfather, will be with me and will guard me on this road that I am traveling, not just the physical road, but the path through life, giving me bread to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return to my father's house in peace. Then Adonai will be my God. That is, I, Yaakov, will know that the God of my fathers is now my God. He will be the same to me as to my father and my grandfather. This stone will be a place in which to acknowledge God's presence and to commemorate this event. Of everything that God gives me, I will faithfully return 1/10 to him. Not the beginning of tithing, but already an established and acknowledged practice. So what had changed about Yaakov's mindset and his worldview? Mentally, Yaakov had come to know that the eternal is with him and has been with him all the time, despite the fact that he hadn't been aware of God's presence. And many times we are not aware either. Yaakov recognized this as a truly awesome event in his life, something of which to take note, because he, a mere mortal, has cause to fear that it's a righteous fear, an awe of God. And we know that these are the beginning of wisdom. Emotionally, Yaakov's discernment is evidenced as he did not understand at first, but he did not act in the heat of the moment. He didn't immediately after the experience set up the standing stone. He went back to sleep. When he woke up, he had understood more fully what had happened to him. Having acquired the knowledge and the perception he needed to comprehend his changed situation, he chose not to act on his emotions. He might have made vows to God instantaneously while on a spiritual high. People do that so often. But Yaakov displayed true intelligence, wisdom. Vows made when one is in an emotional state tend to cool in the cold light of day. When we get back to daily routines, or in Yaakov's case, continue on a long and lonely journey. Up to this point, there was no record that Yaakov had a personal relationship with God. Until this moment, Hashem had been to Yaakov the God of his grandfather, the God of his father. But note that it is Hashem's action, not Yaakov's, that defines this moment. So Yaakov was on his own. This was a make or break time for him. He rose early the next day after a peaceful night's sleep, acknowledging the events of the previous night, taking a serious, unemotional decision based on knowledge, insight, and revelation, not feelings. He recognized that if God is his God, his protector and provider, and if the covenant is to continue through him and his descendants, then he will be submitted to God, not as the God of his fathers, but as his God. Hashem is the God with whom he has a direct relationship through covenant. Yaakov demonstrates perception as well as commitment to God, as God by raising the stone in God's honor, by pouring out an offering, and by pledging his tithe. Yaakov is transformed, or perhaps more correctly, Yaakov is in the process of undergoing a transformation that will make him God's man. Fast forward 20 years, more than 20 years. Where is Yaakov now? Geographically, he's on the move again. On the first visit to the place he called Bet-El, he was escaping for places unknown, hoping to find a new life with his mother's family. Pardon me. And now he's returning to his own land, having left the house of his uncle, removing himself and his family to his homeland of Canaan. He is seeking to be restored to the land of the covenant given to his grandfather, his father, and to him, returning also to his brother Esau. Yaakov is now an older and, of course, a more mature man. He has wives and children and is in a much better place, a much better standing than the frightened young man who was forced to run away from home. In fact, he's a man of substance, with flocks and herds, servants, and a household. Not a lone man, but the head of a tribe. Obviously, he's no longer alone in any sense of the word. In addition to family members and household staff, upon his return to Canaan, he was met by messengers of God. These Malachim assured him that the God who was ever present throughout his time outside the land of promise continues to protect him and his family as they return. These Maha'anim, literally meaning two hosts, assure him that he is not alone. These are Malachim, messengers, who stand in the presence of God and worship him, as described in Ivrim, in Hitagalut, and in Mattatyahu. They are also there to assist, protect, and deliver God's people. The author of Ivrim describes Malachim as ministering spirits sent forth to minister to those who are the heirs of salvation. That would be you and me. Sometimes they provide direction or advice to those in covenant with God, but they also offer encouragement and support. Malachim can be the interpreters and they can be the executors of God's will for us. We see examples of that throughout the scriptures. When I see the way in which God used Malachim in Yaakov's life, I'm reminded of our nighttime prayer. B'Shem Adonai Elohai Yisrael, Mimini Michael v'Mishmoli Gavriel v'Milpanai Uriel v'Ma'akara Raphael v'Al Roshi Shekinat El. In the name of Adonai, the God of Israel, may the angel Michael be at my right, and the angel Gabriel be at my left, and in front of me the angel Uriel, and behind me the angel Raphael, and above my head the Shekinah of God. A powerful prayer. The names of these angels, only 2 of them given in the scriptures, but the others believed to be names of angels. Michael means love and kindness. Gavriel, strength, resilience, discernment. Uriel, that which lights our way, our hopes for the future. Raphael, healing, that which is incomplete becomes complete, moving towards wholeness. And of course, the Shekinah, God's immanent presence, thought to be present at the head of the bed of one who is ill or as we sleep. Yaakov spent time in prayer. Our father Yaakov was a man of prayer, a man who knew how to pray and to wait upon God to receive answers to his prayers. His prayers at this time remind God of the promises made to him at Bethel. We should remind God of his promises to us also. Yaakov calls upon God's mercy and blessings to be on him and his family as through the years of exile. Yaakov's status has changed. He's no longer destitute. God has prospered him and made him a man of great wealth and importance with no need to receive any kind of economic support from anyone. Yaakov has acquired knowledge and insight as well as wealth. He did not rush home expecting to be well received by his twin brother, but considered what his reception was likely to be and put into place everything he could to facilitate his meeting with Esau. Emotionally, who can know? There must have been considerable trepidation as to his brother's response to his return, but Yaakov doesn't assume anything. He sent messengers ahead of him to Esau to tell him that he is returned, making every effort to indicate to Esau that he wants nothing from him. He is wealthy, a man of substance in his own right. He desires to set Esau's mind at rest, that he has not returned for the purpose of taking up the conflict he left behind, and that he's no threat. Remember that Esau has inherited everything. What should have been Yaakov's, as Yaakov was not there to inherit even part of the family wealth. Esau might also be remembering that he sold his birthright for a bowl of stew. So actually, Yaakov owns everything that Esau has and has the moral right, if not the might, to reclaim it. Perhaps Esau is even experiencing feelings of guilt, finding it difficult to believe, considering his own mindset, that Yaakov hasn't returned to take what is rightfully his. And thus Esau clearly prepared to threaten Yaakov with his army of 400 men. And Yaakov is fearful. He has every right to be afraid. Yaakov's fear once again leads to an act of spiritual wisdom, not one of emotion. He prays. Listen to his prayer. God of my father Abraham and God of my father Yitzhak, Adonai, who told me, return to your country and your kinsmen, and I will do you good. I am not worthy of all the love and faithfulness you have shown your servant since I crossed the Yarden with only my staff. But now I have become two camps. Please rescue me from my brother Esau. I am afraid of him, afraid he will come and attack me without regard for mothers or children. You said, I will certainly do you good and make you, your descendants, as numerous as the grains of sand by the sea, which are so many they can't be counted. So Yaakov reminds God of his promises, and he acknowledges that these promises are a result of God's own character and nature, not due to actions by Yaakov as one who deserves them. Yaakov has done all that he can to appease his brother Esau, to demonstrate that he's no threat. He has sent messengers with extravagant gifts to show that he has no need of Esau's wealth, and he sends his family ahead to show that he is not seeking war. Although he has arrived with a company of people, once again, as at Bethel, he finds himself alone with his God. This time, the meeting between Yaakov and God takes a different form. We read, and Yaakov was left alone, and then a man wrestled with him until day. And when the day broke, he saw that he did not defeat Yaakov. He struck Yaakov's hip socket so that his hip was dislocated while wrestling with him. The man said, let me go because it's daybreak. But Yaakov replied, I won't let you go unless you bless me. Yaakov knew that the man with whom he wrestled was God himself. We know this because he requested a blessing, and only God can bless. This time, God had come to meet with Yaakov in the physical form of a human man. This is called a theophany, a God appearance. He came to test Yaakov by waging a physical contest of strength and endurance. What an odd scene this must have been. Obviously, Yaakov could not win a physical contest against God. What we're told is that this personage did not defeat Yaakov, not that he could not defeat him. Yaakov knew he couldn't win against God, but he was determined to hold on against all odds. However impossible it might have seemed, because of course he knew from the beginning that this was God. Why was he holding on? He held on for the blessing. And even in the face of considerable pain, dislocation of a hip is extremely painful. He held on and refused to let go. Yaakov was asked at this point, "What is your name?" And he answered, "Yaakov." And then the man said, "From now on, you will no longer be called Yaakov, but Yisrael, because you have shown your strength to both God and men and have prevailed." Obviously, God knew Yaakov's name, so why ask? English speakers are not accustomed to considering the meaning of names because most English names really don't have great meaning, but even if they do, they were given usually because it's a popular name or it's a family name, not because of what it means. But this question was really being asked, how do others know you? Or even, who do you know yourself to be? The name Yaakov was given by Yitzhak and Rivka. Not a great choice, I would have said. Means he held by the heel, or one who seizes and holds the place of another. God tells Yaakov that he will no longer be known by this name. From now on, he will be known as Yisrael, which means wrestled with God or a prince with God, from the root word tsar, prince, contained in the name Yod Shin Resh Aleph Lamed. From that time forward, he would be the man previously known as Yaakov. His children would be called the children of Yisrael, the tribes of Yisrael, and eventually the nation of Yisrael. The land of promise would be called the land of Yisrael, as it is to this day, despite all attempts to alienate that name from that place. Now, Yaakov questioned the one with whom he had wrestled. "Please tell me your name." The personage responded, "Why are you asking my name?" And with those words, he blessed Yaakov, clearly indicating that he was God. This is a tender moment, as God is saying to Israel, "Come on, you know me. You know who I am." Israel called the place Peniel, the face of God, because I have seen God face to face, yet my life is spared. God, who had renewed and continued his covenant with Yaakov, had shown Yisrael his face, something he denied to others, and yet had spared his life. Where and when does God speak to us? Where exactly are you? Where is your head and your heart at this moment? Are you one who keeps God's covenant? God has plans for you, for your life, and he will do everything necessary to see that you are enabled to follow these plans. If you have a covenant relationship with him, think of God's plans for you within his covenant as being like an architect's blueprint for a great building. Thought and design have gone into these plans, and the one who drew them up knows what he's doing. He's the best there is. our architect is also our builder and creator. He will use only the best materials and construction methods calculated to create the very best building possible. Is that what you want? But perhaps you're busy being your own architect and builder. Never a good idea. If you sincerely desire to put God, your Creator, in charge of the whole project of your life, tell God right now that you want His plans for your life to be put into use. Tell Him that you will stand within the covenant, allowing Him to do whatever's necessary to make of your life what He wants and what He intends it to be. Your age doesn't matter, nor does your education, your sex, your background, your talents, or your abilities. Whatever you bring to the project is also God's intention as your Creator. He will see what you are now and expand your potential beyond anything you can imagine. We know our father Yaakov as a covenant keeper. We see the way God acted in his life to make him the man he became. Yaakov became the man Hashem created him to be, father of the covenant people of God, Israel. May you be blessed this week.